What's going on, guys? Gabriel Aguiar here, and today I want to show you how to create frame-by-frame effects for your game. I've been recently creating a lot of frame-by-frame animation for Rabbit's Tale, which is a game that we are developing here at Golden Bug Studios, links below. And today I'm going to show you the software I use and the techniques that I use to come up with this type of effects. Frame-by-frame animation can spice up your game a lot, it just requires a bit more time and patience. So let's see in a beginner-friendly way how we can come up with this type of effects. By the way, guys, on this Unity Asset Store Black Friday sale, I will have some of my effect bundles on sale. It's a great opportunity to get them. Plus, there's plenty of assets to help you develop games. I especially enjoy using Feel for Awesome Feedbacks, as well as A-star pathfinding for the enemy AI so they can find and attack the player, and Easy Save to save and encrypt all the game progress people do on Rabbit's Tale. Links below, guys, don't miss out. So there's plenty of software, but the one that I like the most, it's free and it's open source, and it's called OpenToonz. If you navigate to their website, you can get it there. Just click the download link and that's it. Once you have installed it, you can open it up. And here we go, we have OpenToonz. So here's how this works. You can create a new project. As you can see, I have a bunch of them for hits, for deflects, fireballs, anything that I need on Rabbit's Tale, and for any other effect that I'm creating. Select this one, everything will go to that path. I'm gonna call this project 01_tutorials. And now we need to create a scene. So new scene, for example, 01_impact tutorial. Let's see how we can create an impact, cool, Flipbook. And it's very important that down here you set the units to pixel and say the width and height is 2048 by 2048 or 1024 by 1024, as long as it is a square and a power of 2, and then press create scene. Here we go. This is the scene itself. Your layout shouldn't be much different than mine because I'm using the drawing layout up here. You can also click there in case you are using another one. You should have more or less these windows right here. Color, the timeline down here, and the tools to the left. We have our classic brush tool like in Photoshop or in Krita, and down here on the timeline is where we can create layers, in this case levels. And the cool thing is that you can create vector levels, which is going to be extremely useful when creating frame-by-frame effects for games. It will give you a lot of flexibility. So new vector level, you can press OK, don't mind with the name. And with the brush tool selected, B for shortcut, we already want to go. Without thinking too much, we want to go ahead and start our first frame of an impact, something similar to this. It's in a triangle shape with a few spikes here and there. And that's it. Don't worry much because the cool thing is that if you select the control point editor tool, C for shortcut, you can edit this vertex. Each vertex has an handle. It's basically a Bezier curve that allows you to manipulate it however you want. You can clean this a little bit by selecting the vertex and pressing delete. We don't need that many vertices. As you can see, that's what I'm doing. Make it a little bit more pointy, and that's pretty much it. But as you can see down here, it's an open path, and it's not that useful for what we want to create. Fortunately, up here there's this icon that looks like a tape, and it's called the tape tool. T for shortcut, very useful to, as you can see, close this path. Click on them and that's it. You can then remove one of these vertex, and here we go. It's the beginning of something, right? And why did we close this path? Because now we can fill it with the bucket tool. It's called the fill tool, F for shortcut. Just like this. Feel free to make a few adjustments like I'm doing. By the way, if you hold Alt and then click on the vertex, you can control its handle points, and if you hold Alt and move an handle, you can move it independently and place it however you want. Control Z, and well, I think I'm gonna leave it more or less like this. One question that may come to mind, and it's useful to know, is what if I want to move all of this? Well, you could select all of these vertices and simply go ahead and move it to whatever you want. But up here there's this animate tool, which depending on what you want to do, I recommend you only use it on the first frame. And with this tool you can move the whole layer to whatever position you want. You can even say that the center is going to be right here, and it can be useful to, for example, rotate based on that point or scale based on that point. But this is for the whole layer. We only have one frame now, but it affects everything. So, moving on, if it is frame by frame, we need another frame now, right? Anyway, I shouldn't be worrying too much about the first frame, because there's going to be changes based on the second frame, and so on. On this layer, on this level, which is called A, we have one drawing, which is the first frame that we are using. As you can see, if I select it, imagine that it goes to another scene. And if I go back to the timeline, we see what it is on the timeline. So basically, every time you select this up here, we enter the layer to see which drawings we have on that layer, on that level. We can press D to duplicate this, and as you can see now we have two drawings, which is cool because if we go to the second frame down here on the timeline and double click it, you can type 2 and then press enter, and that drawing will be available on this second frame. And this is extremely useful because now we can adjust that second drawing to create our second frame. As you can see, I am moving the pointy ends outwards a little bit. It's an explosion, it's expanding. And instead of going back and forward like I'm doing here, which is fine by the way, but there's this thing which is called the onion skin right above the number of our frame. And if you click it, we have this red overlay that shows the previous frame, and that's useful to make adjustments to our current frame. And if we go back to the first frame, you can turn on onion skin to show the next frame. It becomes green, and that's also useful to control the first frame and adjust a little bit based on our second frame. It's very common to use this onion skin when it comes to frame by frame, and even on animation with bones, so we can have a sense of what's happening before or what's going to happen after this frame. It's very, very useful. So let's go to this right panel where we have the level drawings, and we deduplicate the second frame, and on the timeline, double click the third frame, type 3, and that's it. We want to keep on building the same motion. This pointy end goes upward, but these 2 points right here not so much. What we really want to expand on this frame is the inner cavity. We want to exaggerate a little bit. I need to hold Alt to be able to control the handles separately. Here we go, let's keep on pushing these pointy ends a little bit. The ones that are closer to the center, not so much. Now on the left side, open this cavity a little bit more. Let me scroll back and forward, and yeah, I think this will do just alright. On the second frame, I'm gonna make a few adjustments, so it's a little bit more pointy here and there, and so it matches the third frame as well. On the first frame, we can actually decrease the pointiness, let's put it that way, and make this a little bit rounder, and then it will expand really fast. Couple more adjustments on the second frame, on the cavity of the second frame, and on this vertex right here. Something like this. Now let's go ahead and duplicate the third frame. Assign it to the timeline, the fourth. And we really want to exaggerate on the expansion of the cavity. Like this. And on pushing these pointy ends, these extremities, outwards. The cavity can even overlap, because there's a new tool that I want to show you, which is the cutter tool. Looks like a scalp. Basically, it will allow you to cut these lines here and there. And then with C, we can select them and delete those vertices, those unnecessary vertices. Select again the cutter, cut here and there, and with C, select these unnecessary vertices. Now I'm going to push these upwards, and then with the tape tool, T for shortcut, I'm going to connect these both. I'm going to do the same on this right side, cutter tool, cut here and there, delete the unnecessary vertice, and with T I'm going to tape this, so it's one shape only, and also I'm going to delete the unnecessary vertices that remain. I'm gonna repeat this process every time this cavity overlaps with something, as you can see. On the right side, if this happened to you, don't worry. Select the fill tool, press F, and you can fill it like this. Now what we want to do is push these points right here so it matches the previous frame a little bit, as you can see. And then we want to create a new cavity on this kind of triangle shape, because it will eat up, it will erode from the inside. We want to do it on the other triangles. You can add vertices, by the way, while holding Control to add new vertex, just like this. We can create these cavities on each triangle. And push it a little bit outwards. You can even expand the onion skin to see previous frames, so you can get a better idea of the motion you were having and the distance. This distance right here, I'm now gonna make it larger, so it expands really fast, and on the next frame it will slow down. The right side looks okay. On the left, I'm gonna make this a little bit rounder and pointier on this left side. Alright, that looks, yeah, it's beginning to look like something. It's expanding really fast from the inside of our impact, and it's eroding from there. Let's duplicate the 4th frame, add the 5th frame to the timeline, and now it's going to slow down this expansion, but we can exaggerate the erosion from these cavities inside the triangles. We can really exaggerate them, and they don't need to be even. They can be a little bit unproportional. It will add a nice touch. Obviously, this is a short tutorial when it comes to frame-by-frame animation. Like I said, it takes some time, but you get the general idea, and you can see my workflow when it comes to building flipbooks for games. I'm going to repeat this process for all of these triangles on the right side and this one on the center. Exaggerate the cavity. The ones on the left, I'm going to add a new vertex while holding Control, and then with the cutter tool I'm going to cut these lines right here, and with the tape tool I'm going to close this path. I'm going to do the same for this one. Make sure it matches the previous frame, and then exaggerate the cavity, and with F, fill it. And this is what we have at this point. It's looking, and if you press L to loop this, pretty cool for a short amount of time. You can control the loop duration. I'm gonna extend it to the 9th frame so we can let it breathe a little bit for our eyes to catch everything, so it isn't a continuous loop. And you can slow it down on this number that says FPS, frames per second. I'm gonna slash it in half to 12. Here we go. I'm gonna set it back to 24, and that's it. And for the last frame, we can duplicate the 5th frame with D, assign it right here. It's a small flipbook, so basically everything should be almost eroded. We're gonna keep on pushing this outwards and just a little bit. Don't go faster than previous frame, but make sure that the cavity erodes even more. Basically, we don't want this to move too much outwards now because it's already slowing down. It's pretty much slowed down, but the erosion that comes from inside, it's faster. Should erode even more than the previous frame. Exactly like this. Repeat this process for all of these triangles until we get to a point where they are all eroded and we are left only with the tips. Right, and if you press L to loop this, you can see how it looks. Very interesting for a short amount of time. Now that this is looking alright, I'm going to show you how to export this and use it in Unity, for example. Go up there in Render, select Output Settings, make sure the resolution is correct, make sure the frames are also alright, from 1 to 6. Select the destination folder. I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm just gonna change the file format to PNG and the options, instead of a period, an underscore, and padding of 2. Press export. You can close this preview window, navigate to the folder where it exported, and this is what we get. It's a black impact, as you can see, but what I want to show you is that it's very flat. It doesn't have any glow or something like that. And the cool thing about OpenToonz is that we can add a bunch of effects to what we have animated, to what we have drawn, right? And that's where things get really interesting. If you go to Effect Schematic, if you don't see it, you can go to Window and open Schematic. But once you have this window right here, as you can see, this yellow block represents our impact. This one right here on the timeline. You can even rename it to Impact 01, for example. Here we go. And with right click, you can insert effects like blurs, distortions, and so much more. This is really powerful. It's basically nodes for flipbooks. If you don't see these effects, you can navigate back to their website on OpenToonz. And at the time, I actually installed these effects plugins. They are very easy and straightforward to install. Just make sure you follow these instructions. Probably close OpenToonz before installing these effects. But once you have those effects installed, in case you don't see these ones, obviously, if you already have these ones, you can go ahead to light and add glow. Nothing changes because we need to click this eye so we enter the preview mode. Here we go, it's blurred. On the blue channel, for example, it could be the green or the red, but on the blue channel, you can select this white part of this circle. It seems like nothing is there because our impact is black, so let's take care of that by selecting the first frame, and on this color picker, go to completely white. Here we go. Now if you click on that half white circle, you can preview what's going on. And we want to make sure that we connect this to the source of the glow as well. And if you double click this glow, you can control the blur. For example, expand the blur to 80. Now it's glowing even more. And you can even increase the brightness to 200. Or not that much, but you get the idea. You have control over those values. And it looks much more interesting. And there's a bunch of effects right here. For example, one that I like to use also is right click on the glow and insert also on the light body highlight. And if you double click this, it opens these settings where you want to say that transparency is something like 0.3, the color is something like 50 for all the channels, and as you can see you get this darker area in your drawing. It adds a little bit of texture. It adds also a little bit of depth, and it updates automatically to all the frames. You can try different modes. You can even try to switch the body light with the glow. Basically, body light is first and then the glow, and see how it looks. You can do a bunch of things. I'm just showing an overview of what you can do with OpenToonz. I'm going to export again, just delete the previous frames, render, here we go, and this looks a little bit more interesting. Now the way to use this, for example in Unity or Unreal, is to create a flipbook. This is individual frames, and the way I use it, there's a lot of tools that can do this, but the one that I use is Glue It. This is the GitHub you want to go to. I left a link below. It's a simple sprite shape tool. You can download it. Once you download it and open Glue It, you can add the frames, navigate to where they are, right? Say the amount of columns you want, in this case 3, glue it, and then the last step, save it. Rename it. I'm gonna say underscore 3x2. I like to say the number of columns and rows. I like that to be on the name of the flipbook. It helps a lot. And here we go. We have our flipbook. So that's the general process of creating flipbooks with OpenToonz for Unity, for Unreal or other game engine, basically creating effects in OpenToonz for games. And with this you could use it in Unity, for example, with a particle system. You just needed a material to assign the flipbook. That material can go to the particle system. And then all you need is text to sheet animation turned on and say the amount of columns by rows, in this case 3x2. And there you have it. Probably adjust the size and a short lifetime, since it's an impact, but there you have it. And then you can even add a gradient to get a much more interesting feeling out of this. So there you have it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this first tutorial on how to create frame-by-frame animations with OpenToonz. I made this flipbook available on my Patreon page, where you can get access to a huge library of visual effects for your games. I want to say thank you to each patron that supported me last month. And as usual, a quick shout out to top tier patrons, which are Encrad Bitter, Alan Alston, Ashkan Kalkali, David Molina, Diego Marques, Frosty40, Goobles, Grant Clark, Grub Lab, Ivan Jacobi, Jade, Januga IV, Casey Miller, Huan Huang, Leandro Di Riccio, Leon Holt, Matt Moore, Oitz, Phil Kozel, Pierre Mario Roux, Pradip Sen, Sanofa, Static Samurai, Vulcan S, Marisuta, Whatever Marta, Will Polion, Jao Barcade, and me J Kim. Thank you all very much for your support. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.